Ananta Shakti Bhagavan Ananto Mahad Gunat Vadyam Anantamahu. Mahatma Kanta Parayanasya Word for word. Kuta, what to say. Puna, again. Grinata, one who chants. Nama, holy name. Tasya, his. Mahatma, great devotees. Ekanta, exclusive. Parayanasya, of one who takes shelter of. Ya, he who. Ananta is the unlimited. Shakti, potency. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Ananta, immeasurable. Mahat, great. Gunatvat, on account of such attributes. Jam, whom. Anantam, by the name Ananta, who is called. Translation. And what to speak of those who are under the direction of the great devotees, chanting the holy name of the unlimited, who has unlimited potency. The personality of Godhead, unlimited in potency and transcendental by attributes, is called the Ananta, unlimited. Translation, please repeat. And what to speak of those who are under the direction of the great devotees, chanting the holy name of the unlimited, who has unlimited potency, the personality of Godhead, unlimited in potency and transcendental by attributes, is called the Ananta, unlimited. Purport. The Dvija Bandhu, or the less intelligent, uncultured men born of higher castes, put forward many arguments against the lower caste men becoming Brahmanas in this life. They argue that birth in a family of Sudras or less than Sudras is made possible by one's previous sinful acts, and that one therefore has to complete the terms of disadvantages due to lower birth. And to answer these false logicians, Srimad Bhagavatam asserts that one who chants the holy name of the Lord under the direction of a pure devotee can at once get free from the disadvantages due to lower caste birth. Pure devotee of the Lord does not commit any offense while chanting the holy name of the Lord. There are 10 different offenses in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. To chant the holy name under the direction of a pure devotee is offenseless chanting. Offenseless chanting of the holy name of the Lord is transcendental, and therefore such chanting can at once purify one from the effects of all kinds of previous sins. This offenseless chanting indicates that one has fully understood the transcendental nature of the holy name and has thus surrendered unto the Lord. Transcendentally, the holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical, being absolute. The holy name of the Lord is as powerful as the Lord. The Lord is the all-powerful personality of Godhead, and he has innumerable names which are all non-different from him and are equally powerful also. In the last word of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord asserts that one who surrenders fully unto him is protected from all sins by the grace of the Lord. Since his name and he himself are identical, the holy name of the Lord can protect the devotee from all effects of sins. The chanting of the holy name of the Lord can undoubtedly deliver one from the disadvantages of a lower caste birth. The Lord's unlimited power is extended on and on by the unlimited expansion of the devotees and incarnations. And thus, every devotee of the Lord and incarnations also can be equally surcharged with the potency of the Lord. Since a devotee is surcharged with the potency of the Lord, even fractionally, the disqualification due to lower birth cannot stand in the way. Kuta punagrinato nama tasya mahatamaikanta paranasya yonanta shakti bhagavanananto mahadgunatvat yamanantamahu. And what to speak of those who are under the direction of the great devotees, chanting the holy name of the unlimited, who has unlimited potency. The personality of God, unlimited in potency and transcendental by attributes, is called the Ananta Unlimited. So, Sutta Goswami is speaking, and he is recounting, he is telling of his position, mixed, not considered according to the caste system, or not considered higher in birth. This is one of the stumbling blocks, actually. From one verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, that this one can become very, very proud over certain things, certain categories of things. Janma, Aishwara, Sruta, Sribi. Janma, your birth, your family. You come from a very aristocratic family, high-class family, well-known family, famous family. You get very proud of that. And when you get proud, you get you think yourself in a superior position, and then you'll be insulting to others. So Janma, Aishwara, when you're very wealthy, very opulent, possess a lot of assets, people tend to get proud of that type of thing. Aishwara. Sruta, high education. I have got BA, MA, PhD, and I'm very elevated. I'm a very superior entity. So people get very proud over learning, and they get Sribi, they get very proud over their beauty, or their beauty, or they're handsome. I'm a very handsome man. Look at me, very beautiful woman. Look at me, very puffed up. So you can get puffed up by any one of these, or you can get puffed up by, say, you may have beauty, you may have wealth, you may have a big family, and you've got education. Just imagine that the conditioned soul is prone to be puffed up as one of the weaknesses of the heart, to be puffed up over possessions, and to think you're the Lord, you're the Lord of others. Others are beneath you. And so these are the ways that's stated in the Bhagavatam and other places that you can very easily become proud. So this is Janma, the birth. A big family, aristocrat, Brahmana, big Brahmana family. But Sutta Goswami is saying that I'm mixed. But someone who's mixed is considered not. If someone is very rigid on that, not a pure blood, mixed, looked down, frowned on, mixed. So he is mixed. She is mixed. So one can be very, very puffed up, artificially so. I always remember the funny story of the brahmanas who were sat down and fed the meal and everything like that. They were going around and they were taking so much on their plate. Good stand you got here. So and they were taking and going and plate after plate practically. And then at one point when they went to as if they're renounced. Already had 5 plates, but all of a sudden. So, that's a funny little story, but anecdotal. But you can be proud over the silliest things. Proud over the silliest things. You can be proud of your shirt, your jacket. Walk around, look at my jacket. So the silliest things. The tendency is there. Mode of ignorance is strong. So the tendency is there, and certainly when one has high birth, but Sutta Goswami, my position is different, but he is accepted by the great sages of Naimisharanya as an exalted personality. And they accepted him as the speaker. They gave him an honoured seat. After his father, Ramaharshan Sutta, he was elected to sit at Naimisharanya. There were 60,000, some say 60, some say 80,000 sages. You can go to Naimisharanya. I've been a few times, and the place where they all supposedly sat, they sat there, and there's a big seat there where someone who's offered a seat like that, that's a very prestigious, that's a sign of offering respect. So he was offered that seat by great sages. Sutta, they accepted him. He had heard from Sukadev Goswami. He understood. His level of realization, his level of now. I think Maharaj was mentioning yesterday about offering respect to it's not just your birth. If you're born in a high family and you act accordingly, then you offer respect. But I always remember the story of when Indra was cursed by Brihaspati. And then the demigods were defeated by the asuras, and now Indra was cursed. And it wasn't cursed actually; he just suffered. But there was a curse. Brihaspati, he was sitting in a big assembly, Indra, and Brihaspati, the spiritual master of the Devas, came in. He came in. So, when one's guru comes in, one is supposed to show respect. But it's specifically mentioned there by Prabhupada that because he used to come in every day, he's the guru of the Devas, he used to come in every day, so they got a little familiar with him, and he just came in, and so Indra didn't show any respect. No one really showed any respect because he comes in every day. So Brihaspati thought to teach them a lesson. And I always remember that one time that Prabhupada was in at Mumbai at Juhu Temple, and Prabhupada we were just walking around and outside, and then Prabhupada came out, and then when we saw Prabhupada, of course, we paid our obeisances. But Prabhupada commented actually, because he stopped, and one disciple just went like this, just went like this, and Prabhupada stopped. Why you didn't pay your obeisances to your Guru Maharaj properly? Then the godbrother of mine told me that in some countries, like in Tonga, he went to Tonga, right? He went to Tonga, and in that country there's a king. So you're supposed to, when the king goes past, whether walking or even his car goes past, you're supposed to bow down to the king. That's like the tradition there. I don't know still, but at that time. The Tonga, the king, you're supposed to, they're seen like that. They're seen like representatives of God. They're the king. You're supposed to. So he was with, my godbrother was with someone, and then the king's car went past. So they all went like that, and he was just looking. So later on, it got back to them that the king actually noted it in the car. Why that man didn't pay? He didn't offer respects to the king, right? So the same happened with Brihaspati. He walked in, and Prabhupada said because he was coming in every day, they took it, and Prabhupada actually commented, familiarity breeds contempt. So then, but Indra then he just left. Actually, he just disappeared. He left. And then Indra had realised, he's gone, I've committed an offence. So he tried to find him, but Brihaspati, to teach them a lesson, made himself invisible. They couldn't find him. Couldn't find him. So then, because of that offence, then they suffered. They lost their power. They lost their position. The Asuras were able to defeat them. They went to Lord Brahma. This all happened because you had the offence against your guru, and we can't find him to apologise even. And then, and now the Asuras are defeating it. They did a whole how to counteract that, and then you have to do one yagya, and you have to get this Vishvarup, who is the son of Twashta. There's a whole story there. The son of Twashta, and then he will do the yagya and make you powerful again. and ultimately you have to beg forgiveness from Brihaspati. But you can, in the meantime, you can do this. So Vishvarupa was very young, and when the demigods approached him, they were very senior, and he was reluctant to do it. But the demigods convinced him, this is the point I'm getting, the demigods convinced him that because, no, one can accept the position, because they're doing the yajna, it puts one in a superior position. And the devas are the yajama, they are hosting there, but actually the one doing is in the superior. So he was reluctant, no, you are my superiors, you are my elders, so how can I accept this position? No, it is said, and Indra said, it is said, that one can offer respects to someone else, and there's different ways. Through, I think Maharaj mentioned this yet, through the birth, if one is acting properly, and one has got jnana, right? He said another way is through the age. If one is elderly, generally respect is given. If one has a high family, respect is given. If one is very knowledgeable, then respect is given. And if one is a tapasvi, one is very advanced in tapasya. And so these four things were mentioned by Indra. If one is very advanced in tapasya, respect should be given. If one is advanced in knowledge, respect should be given. And any one of them, not that all four of them have to be there, but any one of them. Tapasya, if someone is very austere, very renounced, respect should be given. So these things. Unfortunately, when someone is very rigid, then they don't understand. They're not educated enough to understand these points. But others who are more educated, actually properly educated, understand. No, someone can be elevated. Not only just the family, but someone can be elevated. And there's a very interesting story in this regard, in regard to Haridas Thakur. Now, Haridas Thakur is a Namacharya, born in the Muslim family, which was considered by Hindus to be a lower birth, rigid caste, like the lower birth. But Lord Chaitanya elevated him to be the Acharya. Now, when he left his home, he went to the forest of Benapole, which is now in Bangladesh. And he stayed there, and he went by the Ganga, and he built himself a cottage, a thatched cottage and he had a tulsi, and he had taken a vow to chant so many names, non-stop, 330,000 names of the Lord daily. So he had a hut by the Ganga, and he had a tulsi, and he just used to sit there and chant all day and all night long, practically. Just chant. So it became, the local people became aware of this great personality who was doing that, and they could observe him after long. He's just chanting the whole time and non-stop. So they were very, very respectful to him. They went to visit him and offer him respect, and so on and so forth. But there was one personality by the name of Ramachandra Khan. He was a local Zamindar. He was very envious of devotees and Vaishnavas. So he didn't like that someone was getting respect like that. He didn't like the Vaishnavas. So he plotted to defame him, to shame him, and he went to the area of prostitutes, and he gathered them, and they said, "All right, I want you to now, amongst yourselves, I'll pay you, and I want you to go there and lure Haridas Thakur, and then I'll send my man with you, or a couple of my men, and then they'll, when he falls down with you, he'll be exposed, and then my men will come and then we'll be rid of this so-called saint." So one prostitute came forward. And she said, "Well, don't send your men with me immediately, but let me go first, and let me be him one time. When I go the second time, then they can come." So she went there, and she sat there, and in a very provocative way, and she just, propositioned him straight out. "You are so nice." She flattered him and everything. "I would like to be in union with you," and so on and so forth. And he just said that, "I've taken this vow to chant so many names, so I haven't finished chanting today. Just sit here, no problem. I'll accept your proposal. No problem, but just sit here and just wait, and I've got to finish my round. So the chanting, so she was sitting there. She had some sort of devotion, because it's explained that when she saw Tulsi, she paid her respects to Tulsi. She actually paid her, but then she was, employed. So she went there. Anyway, she just sat there, and she was just sitting there, and so he was just chanting, and then and then she was, oh, I'm very sorry, I haven't finished, I can't, but come back tomorrow. Right? So the same thing happened again tomorrow, and this happened 3 times. That he was just chanting, but gradually her mood, her consciousness was pure by being in his association, hearing his chanting. Such was the power of the great devotee Haridas, that she changed. Her heart changed, and she confessed everything to him. Actually, I was sent here by Ramchandra Khan to defame you and so on. And Haridas Thakur, he said, yes, I knew all that. And actually, I just wanted to help you in your own Krishna consciousness. And that's why I asked you to stay here. And so she should surrender to him, accepted him as her guru. Such a turnaround. Accepting as a guru, and what can I do? And to be relieved from this offense. You just stay here, and you go back, you give all your possessions away to the brahmanas and different people. You come back here, you live in this hut, and you sit in front of Tulsi, and you do this chanting. So she did it. and she gave her all things, and she came back. She actually even shaved her head, just like, renounced like the ladies do, you see in India. They shave their head like renunciates, like the men do, and she just dressed in white, and she just sat there chanting. Gradually it became known. It was just, everyone was astounded, because they all knew her, the local people. She was a prostitute before, but now she's and they saw that she kept doing it for quite a long time. So gradually people went to visit her and seek her darshan, and they gave her different things. And even after some time, stalwart Vaishnavas came to take her darshan. So from the prostitute to the stalwart Vaishnavas, taking her darshan. So it's a very wondrous story how she was purified. Then later on, the story goes on that Haridas Thakur had left there, and he was walking, and he went to a place called Chandrapuri, and there, initially he stayed at the place of Balaramacharya. And Balaramacharya was the priest of Hiranya and Govardhana Madhura. Now Govardhana was the father of Raghunath. It later became Raghunath Das Goswami. And they were 2 brothers, and they were like treasurers in the government of the local area. They were treasurers. Very, very rich. Very super rich. So Balaramacharya was their priest. Later on, so everyone came to know about Haridas Thakur. They had heard about what had happened with this prostitute previously, some of them, and so they were, we're so fortunate to have the great Haridas Thakur here. Later they built him a thatched cottage, and so he stayed in there and continued his chanting. He was staying in there, and then Balamacharya invited him to a function at Hiranya and Govardhana house in Raghunath. So Raghunath actually got association with Haridas Thakur at a very young age. He used to go and see him when he was chanting, and of course he came to that. And so when Haridas Thakur came there, he was very respected. Everyone bowed down, touched his feet, and they glorified him, knowing of his position of a great Vaishnava. And so someone said, so just association, Haridas Thakur is doing this chanting. This chanting, by doing this chanting, he is such an example. Just by doing this chanting, one can be freed from sinful reactions. Another one said, just by doing this chanting, one can attain liberation. And then Haridas Thakur, of course, he said that actually these are but side effects of the chanting. So it's a very interesting section here in the Chaitanya Charitamrita about this story, and it's interesting because the effects here in the purport is mentioned about sinful reactions and how what Prabhupada calls them, the logicians, the false logicians. They're very rigid personality. Say, no, someone's born in a Sudra family, he can't come up and be a Brahmana, or he can't. They have to first, because they're getting that because of their sinful activities in the past life, and therefore now they're in this position, and therefore they have to live that. They have to. All that has to expire before they can be elevated. So Prabhupada mentions that, and he talks about sinful reactions. So these stories here are very are nice. So in that assembly, the learned, they were all assembly of learned scholars and great devotees, and they mentioned those things. Sinful reactions can be just by... Now, Haridas Thakur said, no, these two benedictions are not the true result of this chanting of the holy name. Actually, by chanting the holy name without offences, one awakens his ecstatic love for Krishna. He gets Krishna praying if one can chant offensively. And then Haridas Thakur quoted some verses that we're studying in the Chaitanya Charana. When one is actually advanced, takes pleasure in the chanting, he is agitated, loudly chants, he cries, and so on. We've been reading in the Chaitanya Charitamrita these. He actually quoted those verses. And then he goes on to say, liberation and extinction of the reactions and sinful life are concomitant byproducts of the chanting. An example is found in the gleams of the morning sunlight. Then he goes on to say that the sunlight, and this is a very interesting point here, offenceless chanting can give one Krishna praying. But then he goes on to say, and there's another, just by a glimpse of offenceless chanting. Now, interestingly enough, and as far as chanting, we know Lord Chaitanya said, as we chant Chaito, Darpanama, there's no hard and fast rules for chanting. Anyone can chant. But if you want to go to the high levels of chanting, there are things to understand and things to know. So, first of all, you have to avoid the offences. Just like every morning that the 10 offences are recited, one has to avoid. These are called the different levels of chanting. One's called Nam Aparad. You're chanting, but you're committing offences. Attached to material things, blaspheming the devotees, the 10 offences. So this is called Nam Aparad. And then the next level is called Nama Bas. Clearing. You take shelter of one who is very elevated, one who is, and this Prabhupada mentions in the purport, one who takes shelter, Parayanas, one who takes shelter of someone who is actually on the offenceless level of chanting. So one who takes shelter and follows the directions of such a personality, then they're on the level of Nama Basa. They're clearing, and in one sense, and Prabhupada does mention it here, I noted it, that he says, actually that's offenceless chanting. It's not actually Sudanam, which is the topmost level, it's Nama Bas. But in one sense it can be considered offenceless, because you're on the path of it. And you're on the path, just like one time Prabhupada was asked in Melbourne, and someone asked, Prabhupada, how can we become liberated? Prabhupada said, oh, you don't know? You're already liberated. He said, if you follow cent%, the instructions and the lotus feet of the Guru, so someone who's on the path, Namabas. Now, Haridas Thakur actually mentions here the topmost position. But then he goes back and says, as far as sinful reactions and even liberation, even a slight glimpse of Sudanam, and he actually says it here, and he uses this word Nambas. Mukti tucha palahaya namabasa haite. Liberation is an insignificant result derived from the glimpse of the awakening of offenceless chanting. So as far as a glimpse, he categorizes as a nambas. This is a glimpse. And he uses the example of the sun. There's another verse in the Bhagavatam, which also, many verses that use the example of the sun, Bhaskar. Ke chit kavalaya bhakta vasudeva parayana agam dunvante katsne niharam iva bhaskara. There, in this verse, it's mentioned, Prabhupada gives a very long purport about the different levels of reactions to karma. And he talks about all different things. He talks about a very long purport, and he talks about parabdha and aparabdha, meaning your karma goes over many lives. and you get reactions. So he talks about parabdha, aparabdha and bija. Some of the reactions are just in seeds, bijas. They'll come out in time. Others are called parabdha, others are called aparabdha. The seeds are a little bit more developed, but those reactions aren't manifest yet. And there's parabdha. Then now you're getting the karma that's manifested sinful reaction. And then he goes on to say, now as far as that's concerned, even a slight glimpse of devotional service is enough to clear out all that. Clear out parabdha, aparabdha and bija. Slight glimpse is enough. And just like, and the example is given as Haridas Thakur uses the same example. So just like the sun, here we experience it very nicely every morning. Even before the sun rises, it gets light. And the light, clears out the darkness. Haridas Thakur talks about bhutas and all the, even before the sun comes up, they all kind of take off. Doesn't say in those words, but more or less like that. He says they all, they can't stick around. Once it's getting light, it's not the time of the bhutas and malevolent kind of entities. They and then when the sun comes up, they're over. So even a slight glimpse. So Haridas Thakur said just a slight glimpse, pure chanting, Sudanam, that gives you Krishna praying. But if someone takes shelter of the great devotee who's on that level, then he is, in one sense, doing offenceless chanting, although technically not on that level, not on the Sudanam level. He's on the Namba. He's clearing. So Haridas Thakur was talking like that. And in that assembly, there was one personality named Gopal Chakravarti. Gopal Chakravarti, he was the tax collector. He worked for Govardhana and Hiranya. And he used to go around and collect the taxes. I mean, they used to keep the taxes and then give them to the government. So he collected. He was there. He was a Brahmana, caste Brahmana, high birth, very knowledgeable, very, very knowledgeable, and he was young and he was very handsome and everything like that. He objected. He couldn't tolerate these types of statements because Haridas Thakur said just a slight glimpse, and he said he couldn't tolerate. At one point, he just interjected. He said, "This man is saying just a slight glimpse. We know from the Shastras that one needs to develop gyan, knowledge, and put in practice, and over many lifetimes, maybe one can achieve liberation. But this one is saying that just by a slight glimpse of chanting, all these things are gone." He couldn't tolerate, And then Haridas Thakur replied, "Why are you doubting? This is so many," and he quoted many Shastras like that. And then that actually infuriated Gopal Chakravarti even further. And he said, well, one thing, if by this slight glimpse of the chanting, one doesn't get the liberation as you claim, then may your nose drop off. And Haridas Thakur, he didn't take offence at that at all, although others were aghast. How did they say it like that? And he said, well, look, if someone doesn't get the liberation from this light, I'll chop my own nose off. Why do you? So others were aghast, especially Balamacharya, who brought Haridas, brought him here, and he's just getting insulted and offended by this man, and Govardhana and Hiranya, they were just, don't say that, why are you saying that? And so many others said the same thing, and Haridas didn't take any offence. Prabhupada actually comments that this is a sign of a great devotee. He didn't take any offence, and later on he actually said that it's not his fault, he's a dry logician. He just can't think any other way, and that's why he liked it. So he didn't take any offence, but he just left. He left and he went back to Balamacharya's house. But of course, everyone else was very upset, and Balamacharya immediately go out of this place to Gopal Chakravarti. And Govardhana and Hiranya just dismissed him right on the spot from their service. They fired him. You're out, and you get out of our house and don't come back. Right? Nothing auspicious can come of this. You've committed a great offence. And so Haridas Thakur didn't think anything, but Krishna doesn't like these types of things. And later on, this Gopal Chakravarti contracted leprosy. And after some time, it said 3 days later, actually mentioned 3 days later, he contracted leprosy, and his nose that was very beautiful started to melt away, and not only that, but his fingers and his toes started to melt away into leprosy. And so Haridas Thakur was very sad to hear that. He just left that village and he went to Shantipur and he stayed with Advaita Acharya. That was before the birth of Lord Chaitanya. So it's actually mentioned that later on, Lord Chaitanya saved this Gopal Chakravarti, but it was after a long time. It's mentioned that Lord Chaitanya this happened before Lord Chaitanya appeared, and so later on, when Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, he went to Jagannath Puri, then he went to Vrindavan, he came back there, and then he went to that place in Koladweep, what's it called? Aparada, what's it called? Bandhana, yeah. Aparada Bandhana, the place where offences are forgiven. There were a few went there, and Gopal Chakravarti. So, you're talking about 25 years later or something like. So, imagine he had that leprosy a long time. And then actually it's mentioned that Lord Chaitanya was a little reluctant to forgive him even because of still the offence against Haridas Thakur he considered so severe. But because then he saw he had a change of mind, he was very humble, then he embraced him. And as soon as Lord Chaitanya embraced him, he said, you just do this chanting, don't commit offences, and almost instantaneously leprosy and his beautiful form came back again. There's many devotees like that who in this Aparada Bandhana that Lord Chaitanya forgave. There was another one, Gopal Chapal, there was another one who committed offence against Srivas Thakur. Devananda Pandit was another. They all went to this and Lord Chaitanya forgave them. So the devotee, he forgives offences, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead doesn't like it when someone offends a devotee. So one has to be very, very careful. But it's certainly a fact that if someone, the Haridas Thakur was made Acharya, and then the prostitute became a great Vaishnava, that great Vaishnavas came and paid her respect. So we see the transformation of people. But those who are very rigid, it's very, very difficult for them to accept. And Prabhupada actually mentions this, that Mayavadis especially, he in the story of Gopal Chakravarti, he actually, in the purport, he says Mayavadi, so he actually categorises Gopal Chakravarti as a Mayavadi, Brahmana, but a Mayavadi. He said Mayavadis, they can't stand to hear these types of statements. They can't stand it, and they react, and they get very angry, and they do all sorts of things. In the case of Ramachandra Khan, he was just a gross materialist. In that story later on, Nityananda came there and sat in the Durga Mandap. Lord Nityananda came there, he knew he came there. And then he just sat there, because he was a worshipper of Durga, this Ramachandra Khan. And he used to offer wine and all sorts of things to Durga, and meat. And so Lord Nityananda came there with many of his followers, and they took up the whole area. And this Ramchandra Khan was so burning with envy against him, he didn't even go out. He just sent his servant out and said that, and he told him that, tell him to go somewhere, whatever you want to say. And the servant came out and said, this area is a little too small for you and all your followers, We'll take you to, there's a Goshala down the road and it's bigger, and you can all stay there. And Lord Nityananda just stood up and said, yes, this place is not fit for me to stay. It's only fit for those who kill cows and eat meat. And he left. And then later on, just a short time after that, this Ramachandra Khan wasn't totally honest in collecting taxes, and he used to also collect taxes. It was found out he was pocketing, and then the local minister came there, and he came there and he sat there. He killed the cow there, cooked meat there, and plundered all the possessions of Ramachandra Khan and his family and the whole village. For 3 days, instead, he and his men went and plundered the whole village. Prabhupada actually comments that this is a result of committing offence against a great personality. He said, not only you suffer, but your family suffers, and maybe even your whole village suffers. And so this was the result. So Ramchandra Khan and all these personalities, they get the results, but those who are actually interesting, all these points about the sinful reactions, how they compute, there's a slight glimpse of devotional service. Of course, the chantings of devotional service, slight, as Haridas Thakur says, slight glimpse of Nam Bas, even Nam Bas chanting is enough to wipe out sinful reactions and give liberation even. But of course, if one wants Krishna praying, then one has to come to the level of Sudanam. And if one follows, takes shelter of the pure devotee who is on that platform, then very quickly they can come to that level. So Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Does anyone have any question or comment in regard to this verse today?
Thank you very much. Just wondering, you were talking about when Haridas Thakur, after he instructed the prostitute, then he went and met with Balaramacharya. Sort of Prabhupada tells a story about Balaramacharya, how he was scratching out the words in the Gita, this Yoga Jnana verse, and he said it couldn't be like that, so he scratched it out. And is that the same Balaramacharya?
So the Balaramacharya in where?
Prabhupada tells a story about, a few times he tells about this Balaramacharya who was reading the Gita, and he read that Yoga Jnana verse, and he couldn't accept that the verse was right. So he scratched it out in his Gita, and then he went to take his bath. And then while he was taking his bath, two beautiful voices.
Oh, was that Balaramacharya? I don't know if that was Balaram. It's given his name, but that's a different personality. Yeah, that's a different personality. That story is also told in the Gita Mahatmya. Scratched out. There was one, Jayadev. Didn't Jayadev do something like that? Yeah. Jayadev also did. So you read Balaramacharya, but that's definitely not this Balaramacharya. No. Yes.
Well, you said the glimpse. The glimpse is. I understood the definition of a glimpse is when there's like some branches of a tree and the sun comes through. It's a glimpse, right?
No, even a glimpse of that's meant even before the sun rises even before the sun rises, light comes. So even before the sun rising is the sun of Sudanam. But even before the sun rises, the light comes, and just that light is enough to drive away the darkness. So that's what the meaning of glimpse is. Not that the glimpse of the sun actually, the glimpse of the light of the sun. Answer your question? Yeah, okay. Last question? Yeah.
You mentioned how a small glimpse of devotional service can eradicate all sinful reactions. So does that mean that within none of the devotees in ISKCON have that glimpse, or are all
the devotees have that glimpse? Yeah, if you're following, you've got that glimpse. You're in the Nam Bas. And as far as sinful reactions, I remember we were walking with Prabhupada, and Churu asked this question to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, it seems that sometimes devotees, even after being devotees for some time, they fall down. Is that due to their sinful reactions? Prabhupada stopped and he said, no. He said that is due to their past bad habits. Their bad habits. He said they're not completely purified, but they're actually reaction. And then Krishna knows what those reactions were, and he takes he takes what should have happened to you, and just to maybe teach you things along the way, he gives you a little bit of a dose of it from time to time. So that's not like the normal karma that materialists get. When a devotee gets that, it's something else. So as far as the desire, Prabhupada says no, that is due to bad habits, and it's a little bit. So it seems like it's desire and due to sinful, but it's not. He said the habits are deep on the mind, and comes from many lifetimes also.
And how is
and the as far as the glimpse, yeah. What was your question about the glimpse?
habits come from karma, so from past karma. You don't get a habit unless the habit of the person comes from the karma, isn't it? it's conditioned by it, it's affected by it. Like for example, if someone has a habit of, I don't know.
Your devotion is, it comes from your past karma? Oh. Yeah.
I'm saying that you mentioned how Prabhupada said that it's not past karma what makes people go from spiritual practice.
Oh, you mean for devotees?
It's habits.
Yeah.
Habits. That bad habits is a consequence also of karma. You can't really disconnect.
No, not necessarily. No, not necessarily. Just you can be in a habit. I see what you mean. You mean because they were like that before, then they got the habit. But it's therefore. But the habit is just something that's just by habit. It's not. It's you're doing something not because of the karma. It's a fructifying karma. Therefore, you're doing it. It's just a little bit, just a habit. But the habit comes about maybe from previous karma. But it's not the habit when you perform the habit. It's not directly the result of the karma. You understand the difference?
Simple activity will give a bad result in terms of accident or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit different from carrying over an impression where you like something in your past life and it continues in this lifetime. So we don't call that karma. You're not getting a karma reaction there.
Right.
It's on your subtle body carrying your desires. Whereas
Yeah.
the other one is you do simple activity, then you have to get some bad result in this life or next lifetime. That's the karma.
Right. All right. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.